It is. It is free. It's 3 p.m. I call the Planning Commission work session of Tuesday, May 3rd to order. Could we get a roll call, please?
Chairman Loring.
Here.
Commissioner Tagnesi.
Here.
Commissioner Pfeiffer.
Here.
Commissioner Burnett. Here. Commissioner Mayfield. Here. Commissioner Ray.
Here.
Commissioner Richardson.
Here. We've got everyone. 186 pages if you count the work session agenda. And we're going to go through it quickly. Let's first look at the agenda for the regular meeting, which starts on page 2. Or it says page 1. I would ask all the commissioners to look at the minutes for both the work session from 5 April and the regular meeting 19 April. Review those before our meeting in 2 weeks so we can quickly move through those minutes. And then we'll just jump right into the public hearings. The first one is CU-22-247, request of John Morris Edwards for conditional use permit to convert a ground floor non-residential use to residential use per section 9-2-16 and multi-family dwellings containing units with 3 or more bedrooms per section 9-2-20 of the zoning ordinance at 208 South Loudon Street, Zone Central Business B1 District with a historic Winchester overlay.
Thank you, sir.
You're
That
welcome.
was a mouthful there. So yes, sir, conditional use here before us. I also have Ms. Aubrey. She is representing the applicant following our new format. So yes, sir, it's a conditional use permit with 2 requests. This is obviously for 208 South Loudon Street. Just a quick description. Just south of the Walking Mall, it's obviously a lot. There's 2 buildings on the lot, about 7,500 square feet lot area, Zone B1, historical Winchester overlay, and 100% parking exempt district. As it stands, the main building subject to review through this application is entirely vacant. It's just a large vacant space. There was formerly a retail commercial space in there. There's an aerial image of the site. As you can see, main building, which actually looks to be probably 2 buildings that were connected at one point, and then a garage to the rear. And then just surrounding zoning, all B1 with the Walking Mall just to the north. So the conditional use permit request is, as it stands right now, the entire structure is vacant. And so on the first floor, the applicant is proposing to do a commercial space in the front of the building, front of Loudon Street, and then to do a residential multifamily dwelling unit to the rear of the building. So anytime you're going from non-residential to residential, it requires a conditional use permit for the zoning ordinance. Obviously, in this case, it's to the rear of the building as opposed to right on the front of Loudon Street. And then to the second floor of the building, we got 2 more units upstairs. Of the 2 units upstairs, one of them is by right, it's a 2-bedroom unit. However, there's one that's a 3rd bedroom, it has 3 bedrooms, so that also requires a conditional use permit approval. So it's for the unit on the ground floor to the rear and a 3-bedroom unit on the second floor.
Okay, what is a 3-bedroom?
So as it was before in the zoning ordinance, there was a threshold on the number of units where you required a CUP. Just last year, that was amended to allow 52 bedroom units by right. Anything over 2 bedrooms or greater than 50 units requires a conditional use permit approval. That way, it's not just limited to 3 bedrooms. There's a different design standard, whether it's 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms. So that's how that was changed. So that's that. All the units, so they can actually have 8 units by right based on the lot density. You're going for 3 bedrooms. They all meet the average and absolute square footage area. No issues there. Based on the layout of the site, it looks like there's 4 off-street parking spaces to the rear that are accessed by court. So the access to the units is primarily going to be by a walkway to the rear of the building or to the side. That's not to say that 2 units upstairs, or even including the first floor, couldn't be accessed from the front. Green space analysis. So based on the site, actually has a decent size green space considering the size of the lot. It's about Per my analysis, I said 23%. I went out to the site, confirmed it's only 21%, so there is a deficiency of a couple square feet. So it would require a waiver from section 19.5-6.1. Staff doesn't have any objections on that. And I'll let the applicant, locked it here, go ahead and, if you don't mind, Brandon, I locked it up also. Just quickly go over report.
All right. Hi, I'm Aubrey. Thanks for letting me talk to y'all. My husband and I are the new owners of 208 South Loudon Street, and we're excited. It's a beautiful old building in Winchester. I grew up here. We live in Texas, though. But my my brother and sister-in-law live in town, and they're gonna kind of help us with our management when we're not here. But we've been up a lot, recently. So currently, this building is 5,500 square feet, but it's empty. Seems like it has been for the last few years. So we're excited to try to find a good way to make it, economically viable and a bustling, contributing building in the community. We're excited that it was so close to the walking mall, and it is, one of Winchester's beautiful historic buildings, and are excited to get some people living in it and some people renting it for professional mixed-use opportunities. We're not planning to change anything on the exterior. Just there are like a couple of fascia boards and some masonry parts that are kind of crumbly. When we had the structural engineer out, he said maybe fix that up. But otherwise, keeping it as it is. And like Alfredo said, we were thinking, since the parking's in the back, that probably most residential use to get to the property would be either this back door that's kind of the back of the building, or there's like a side entrance. I mean, you could walk all the way to the front, but I would not walk by 2 doors to get to the third. This is kind of what the building looks like on the inside. It's kind of office, and 1 is the bottom floor, and 2 and 3 is the second story. And so, yeah, like Alfredo said, it looks like it was kind of 2 buildings originally that they combined. And so the office and then this, what we have number 1, feel pretty different when you're inside. You kind of step down. It's like the unit 1 is lower, and just you kind of walk in, there's a fireplace, and it has a kitchen. So that felt to us like it might be a pretty good residential spot. And since it's not on Loudon, you kind of don't even see it from the road. They wouldn't be like seeing into people's bedrooms from a busy road or anything. And then up above, unit 3, kind of already looks like 2 bedrooms, 2 full baths are there. But when we were looking at this unit 2, kind of off to the side, just kind of 3 kind of spots already there. So we thought, well, 3 bedrooms might make sense and kind of keep us from trying to do more 2-bedroom units and kind of putting walls in these like beautiful historic rooms. We could maybe kind of stick with the footprint that's there a little more and kind of keep some of the historic charm on the inside as well.
Thank you.
I think that's about it. Here's like my husband got very into like, here's where we'd add a half bath and, add some kitchens and some more information. The spaces would look like.
Anything else?
No, sir. Happy to take any questions.
Questions for the staff or the applicant?
I didn't understand the green space. Is that we are shorter?
There is a deficiency. Yes, sir. So in this case, based on the mixed use and the way it's divvied up between commercial and residential, the target green space for the site would be 27% of the site. As it stands right now, 21% of the site is for green space, right? So there is that 5.5% efficiency. So effectively, the only way that they'd be able to achieve green space is, either removing a structure of some sort. So in this situation, staff would not be opposed to a waiver of the green space requirement, given that about a fifth of the site is already green space, and it's actually an accessible use to future tenants of the property, as opposed to put off on some side that's not really useful.
Looks good.
One question, apologies if you said and I missed it, but the second floor residential is already by right, is that?
So, yes. So the way it stands is, if you're going to have a 2-bedroom unit on the second floor, it's permitted by right. that when you're going to have any part of a multifamily use with 3 bedrooms or more, you're required to obtain a conditional use permit. And so the conditional use permit is for residential on the ground floor, the unit, and then the 3-bedroom unit on the second floor.
Understood. So residential is already by right allowed here. We're just sort of even allowing it into a couple extra spaces. Got it. Thank you.
Did you say that you would not use the entrance off Loud Street into the apartment?
We would not plan for that. We would think and assume that tenants would, there's a side, I'm not trying to
Let me pull up that image for you.
Would you close that off or leave it?
Well, we would leave it, I would think if I was a business, I would want people to be able to come in. So, probably like during business hours, if they wanted to keep that front door unlocked. But it's kind of like a communal space through the kind of, because one unit would access the stairs that are off, they're like right by the Loudon Street, but I think that we would probably just have a different key, and then the businesses could lock up their offices inside.
Sounds like a great use for the building.
Anything else, John?
No questions. It's a beautiful building. And it looks like the square footage, there's no issues with minimum square footage for the units. That's it for me.
Have we converted other buildings like this in the downtown area?
I do believe so. There was a conditional use permit last year, 2 years ago, I believe, on Cameron Street. There hasn't been one since I've been here that I know of, that I've overseen. But in this particular situation, based at the residential uses to the rear and not visible from Loudon Street or even Court Street per se, staff would not be opposed to that, as if it were going to be directly on Loudon Street, then in that case. But given that the commercial use will be up front, it'll have a commercial facade, signage, there'll be minimal changes to the appearance of the building, at least from Loudon Street.
Yeah, my memory says we've done this a few times.
Yeah, there's probably 10 or 12 that we've done since this ordinance been in provision. The last one there on West Boscawen Street, Key Construction had one on the back end of a building on the Loudon Street Mall.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, we're very supportive when the structures were originally a dwelling use.
Thank you. And I agree with you, David, on the green space is important, but this building has been here since
1700s.
Okay.
Just
You know, my like gardener's soul is like, I want there to be more green space too.
Any alibis for this? Thank you. Let's move to RZ-22-275, an ordinance to rezone 2.59 acres at 1570 Commerce Street from commercial industrial CM1 district to medium density residential district with planned unit development overlay. Mr. Stewart.
Thank you.
I'll be recusing myself. My firm may have material interest in the outcome of this project.
Understood. Thank you. So we have before you an application from Greenway Engineering for 1570 Commerce Street to rezone from a commercial industrial district site zoning to a medium density residential zoning with planned unit development overlay. In case there's any confusion about Commerce versus Commercial Street, Commerce Street is down in the central geographic planning area, as shown here on the slide on the screen. Let's see. The site is 2.59 acres. It will require a waiver of the 5-acre minimum for a planned unit development. They're proposing 32 units on the site, which is about 12.4 units per acre, which is below the base PUD density of 16 units per acre. The subject site was in the past part of the VDOT Winchester District yard facility. The parcel lies between a bank building that was recently converted into a veterinary clinic along South Loudon Street and the current Combs Record Towing Facility at 1530 Commerce Street. The Combs parcel was also part of the VDOT yard historically. All of the surrounding properties on Commerce Street are zoned CM1 but to the south, to the rear of the subject site is Glaze Avenue subdivision, which was laid out in the late 1930s and is zoned medium-density residential, and those are the homes kind of along the bottom of the image. The uses on the adjacent CM1 lots are by right for the zoning district. You have mini storage, vehicle storage, gas station with commercial suites. The nearest residential, again, are the single-family homes along Glaze Avenue to the rear of the site. And on the other side of South Loudon Street, you do have the Bellevue Apartments, which is zoned high-density residential. Further north on Commerce Street, kind of around the bend and past the Combs Record site, is where some of the other CM1 uses, self-storage, etc. But across the street from those uses are single-family, and you can see the first few of those in the upper right corner of the image. This is an exhibit that staff put together for the rezoning, showing an MR underlying zoning with PUD overlay. These are some street view images of the site in its current condition. As you can see, it is unimproved along Commerce Street. No curb and gutter or sidewalk. Another image of the site. And this is the development plan that was submitted, dated April 4th, 2022. And it also included elevations, floor plan renderings, a market and fiscal impacts analysis as well. Staff looked at the low volume of traffic generation created by 32 two-bedroom units and advised that a full traffic impact analysis would not be required for this PUD. In the site, in the development plan on the screen, you can see the general layout of the site. You have two multifamily three-story structures with two-bedroom units in it, 12 two-bedroom units in each of those structures, with 8 townhomes in the center facing out towards the street, facing towards Commerce Street. Looking at this development plan proposal in relationship to the comprehensive plan, the site was specifically called out as a redevelopment site.
I'm sorry, it is or is not?
Is currently called out a redevelopment site for the central geographic planning area. One of the goals for the central area is proactive encouragement of redevelopment to achieve maximum sustainability, and one of the action items would be conversion of light industrial uses on Commerce Street to uses more compatible with nearby residential areas. So, this site proposal does remove all commercial uses from the site and goes 100% residential. So, looking at some of the packet here, we do have renderings that were submitted for the multifamily structures that have 12 units in each one, and we saw that the architecture here for these structures does have a good variety of materials and architectural design elements on the front and rear. However, the side facades, which do face out towards Commerce Street, are a little bit lacking of window openings and some variation to the facades. Moving on to the proposed townhomes, there is only 8 of them, but they are facing the street, and so you have 2 rows of 4 townhomes. They are planning to vary the facades, so you don't have a solid wall of townhomes, but and there are a good variety of elements on the front facades, including a brick course on the lower level, kind of like at knee wall height along the front facade. So far, they didn't bring that treatment around to the sides of the structure, and currently only have kind of 1 window proposed with just a solid rest of the wall, solid vinyl facade there. Amenities, going back to the green space, the development plan itself. Development plan stipulates or shows that they're at 49% green space. 49% green space. But looking at the proposed central green potential amenity area for the residents there, they're not showing the planned amenities like a fire pit or a hard patio with seating for residents. So when we've asked for them to show that and net that out of the green space number, so it might come down a little bit from the 49% as currently calculated. There
But
are
the requirement
yes,
is
45.
45.
Yeah. So they do have a little bit of room to play with the green space total. There are other common space areas that could be used for kind of unorganized recreation play on site near the proposed stormwater facility at the east end of the site. So just looking from a street access and circulation standpoint and parking, they are proposing 48 surface parking spaces in the development plan and an additional 16 with the townhomes themselves with a parking pad for each unit plus a garage, a one-car garage. The market and fiscal impacts analysis, I'll jump to that. They are looking at a calculated $320 annual net positive impact for on-site impacts. When you include off-site impacts, that positive figure would grow to about $14,000 per year. And you have to keep in mind that this is an entirely residential PUD where you don't have a sales tax, potential sales tax revenue or business license revenue coming into the city, and also higher property values on a per square foot basis for commercial space. So this kind of impact analysis does compare actually to the Wink FM PUD site that was recently approved by council, almost the exact same number of units. I'll turn it over to Chris Moan from Greenway Engineering, kind of fill in the gaps and give a little background and wrap up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Chris Moan. I'm with Greenway Engineering. That was a very thorough overview that David provided, so there's not a whole lot for me to add. However, I think to circle back a little bit from the site design perspective, as he noted, we are providing, in addition to the on-site parking, off-street parking, we are providing 16 spaces on Commerce Street. We are proposing improvements to the frontage of Commerce Street that will include the on-street parking as well as a 5-foot sidewalk, as well as street trees. And each of the townhouse units that front on Commerce Street will also, of course, have a lead walk, to Commerce Street as well. So certainly, we feel that that'll be a positive improvement, a positive enhancement to the Commerce Street frontage in that area. Additionally, just to kind of reflect on some of the comments from a design perspective, we fully intend to address the concerns from an architectural design perspective, as well as some of the site refinements that need to be done between now and your public hearing. So we're fully aware of that, and we'll have updated materials for you to address some of those perceived shortcomings.
You're alluding to the sidewalls?
The sidewalls in particular, extending some of the treatments, around to the sides and improving, the window, provision of windows on the sides, things of that nature. So we will be certainly dealing with those as well.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. That's all I have.
Questions for the staff or the applicant, Dave?
No.
Couple questions. One is, what's the line of sight from the houses on Blaze Avenue looking towards these 3 stories? Are they, as far as topography, are they lower, higher, in the same plane? How do they measure up to those 3 stories, 3-story buildings?
Do you want me to respond to that?
Please.
Okay. The topography is roughly the same. when you get, from where, the folks are on Glaze Avenue. So, there will be, it'll be a change in the view shed, to the rear, of those properties. One thing, we are ensuring that we're going to do is plant, as much as we can along that rear buffer, not just the evergreen component, but also incorporate some of the deciduous trees that are called for through the PUD, so that hopefully, we'll get a taller, thicker, natural screen over time. But yeah, it doesn't sit above, which is beneficial, but it also, is more or less even.
And what's the maximum building height for MR? Is it 35 feet?
Yeah, 35.
I mean, I kind of have the same, you referenced the Wing FM development, I kind of have the same 3-story, 1 and 2 stories, because kind of that's, I say the neighborhood, I mean, it's more commercial around there than it is residential, except on the back side, on the south side of it. That's just my only concern would be being a 3-story building, as opposed to a 2-story building. But besides that, I really don't have any other questions as of now.
I could comment a little bit on that, being more familiar with the Winkfm PUD. A couple differences between this proposal and the Winkfm site. The structures are at a minimum, as shown here, at 43 feet setback from the rear yards of the single-family homes. They were much tighter at the Winkfm site from 43 feet. And then for a majority of the rear frontage, rear parcel buffer to the single families, the structures are up on the other side of the parcel. So there's a setback between the structures and the single family homes there.
Right. Nice.
John?
Do the 3-story apartments have elevators?
No, they do not. No, they're walk-ups.
And who's going to be responsible for maintaining the streets? Is that going to be?
Internally, it will be the owner of the property. The entire project is intended at this point to be a rental project, so they'll be responsible.
And do you have any idea what the price range would be of the apartments and townhouses?
14.
Yeah, I think in the ballpark of $1,400 a month to $1,800 a month. That's correct.
Thank you.
You good, John?
That's all. Thank you.
Just to confirm, is it the 5-acre minimum requirement? Is that the only waiver here, or is there others that were?
Well, specifically for the PUD, the 5 acres.
For the PUD itself. Site plan.
When it gets to site plan stage, if they were below 45%, they would need a waiver for that. But they're at 49, and we don't anticipate that dropping below.
Yeah, and I would say we're going to work from a design perspective to ensure that we hit that minimum. Yeah, for sure.
That's all I have for now. I'll reread.
Okay.
Nope.
I've got a few questions. Number of bedrooms?
All of them are 2-bedroom.
All of them are 2 bedrooms,
All are
townhouses and the apartments.
That's correct.
Curbs and gutters along Commerce Street?
Yes.
For the front of the whole front of the property?
Yeah, for the frontage, that's correct.
Yeah, David, for you, do you have all the requirements for the application?
We are hoping to get a property maintenance plan from the applicant. We don't have a proposed budget for maintenance, nor do we know who the property management would be handled by. Doesn't appear to be any on-site management, so it is a concern that we would hope to see a plan.
And is that doable in the next 2 weeks?
Absolutely. Yeah, the staff.
So when I ask him this question in 2 weeks, he'll say, yes, we've got everything.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay. That's good. And David, just to confirm, we have routinely granted the waiver for less than 5 acres for PUDs.
Yes.
Good. Any alibis?
If you don't mind,
Please. Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. The east side there, what is the plan? I don't see any greenage on that side. What's the plan to kind of?
Well, they're not proposing at this time any landscaping there. That does border the Combs Wrecker site, which is a CM1 use. for their own residents, they might want to buffer the view for
Right.
their sake towards
Maybe
that
safety for
property.
children or something as well. Okay. Well, that's it for me. Thank you.
Great. Any other alibis? Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you in 2 weeks. Well, that runs through the issues we've got for public hearings. We've got a full house. Am I missing anything?
You have one item under the administrative approvals, and then Mr. Ravenel here on the CIP.
Okay, then let's go to the proposed site plan changes for 186 North Loudon Street. And David, you're on?
Yes, and Tim might be helping out with this one a little bit, but the site plan that you're looking at, I did distribute it to you all. There are, this is the current proposed site plan. That's the latest revision.
I need to recuse myself. My firm did the initial drawings for the stairs for this building. I don't see our name on here, but we were involved.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So this site plan has been under review for quite some time. It has several elements to it. One specific element is that it's to cover the owner's desire to construct a staircase along the front in the Loudon Street public right-of-way. And City Council did grant an easement over a year ago for that encroachment into the city public right-of-way. So on the first page of the two-page plan, you see a staircase there near the front door of what used to be a bank building there at the corner, north end corner of the pedestrian mall. So that's one element of this plan. The other element is that it's a redesign of the parking lot to the rear, which is partially on that parcel where the bank is, but it's also partially a separate parcel that goes all the way out to North Cameron Street, where you have a parking aisle coming in there. So the owner is planning to install a lift arm gate entrance and have a kind of just a one-way movement from the North Cameron Street parking lot into the site. By doing this, they are able to kind of gain some efficiency of design and create a new patio area to the rear of the bank building. So on page 2, up in kind of the left corner, that's a new patio to the rear of the bank building, which, if you may recall, does have 6 apartments in the rear that were added in the last several years. They were added via site plan. So what you have here is kind of an evolution of this site over the last several years. Just to give a quick kind of background on it, when the owner introduced 6 apartment units in the rear of that bank building, kind of a 1960s edition that I believe has like a mortgage lender or something to that effect on the ground floor. There are 6 apartments upstairs. So that was done back in early 2020 via site plan, and the site's changed a little bit since then, and so we've kind of at a staff level have been playing catch up on trying to keep track of all the changes to the site. As part of the site plan for the apartments back in early 2020, what you now see as a patio area between the former Brubaker site and the bank building site had been briefly proposed as just a seated lawn area back in early 2020. With that site plan back in early 2020, the site was briefly up to 20% green space, with that kind of what you now see the patio being entirely green. The whole site was 20% green. They revised that to a kind of like essentially like an as-built site plan later in the year, because they wanted to convert the lawn area into a usable patio space. So there was a qualitative improvement to the green space between the two structures along the pedestrian mall, but it became usable patio space with hardscape kind of center for tables with a professional landscape design around the edges. So they did lose some green space there with that site plan. And now they're coming back with a redesign of the parking lot. And with the current site plan that you have, it is an improvement in green space over what is currently there, but it is less than what was approved in the early 2020 site plan when they added the apartments. So they went in the wrong direction, and now we're incrementally going back in the right direction with this current site plan that you have in front of you. So that's kind of a history of the changes there, and that is the site plan. We've been working with them. They plan to save one of the mature trees that they, in the first drawing, had proposing to remove. You can see the X's over some of the trees in the parking lot on page 2. They are now planning to preserve one of them in that kind of center on the right side of that parking lot instead of removing that tree. And they are adding some green space. There will be more green space along the streets. In the new patio area to the rear of that building along Piccadilly Street, so in the top left corner of page 2, there is a new grass lawn area that will actually be for the residents of the 6 apartments. They're essentially planning 2 patios in the rear there. One is for the residents and one is potentially for either the entertainment venue or the rear of what used to be Brew Bakers. So,
Is that fenced?
yeah, there is actually a fence between the 2 portions in that new area.
And along
Yep.
Piccadilly too?
Yes, yeah, and along Piccadilly as well. And this site plan, the one that you're looking at, does address some other changes that were made within the last year to 6 months of where the dumpster enclosure was demolished, and the dumpsters that were partially hidden by the previous enclosure are now currently just kind of floating in the parking lot, which is against zoning ordinance. So this site plan fixes some of those issues, and so we've been working with the applicant to address some of those kind of zoning deficiencies, if you will.
Great. Questions for the staff? David?
How do you measure green space?
Areas that are not impervious. So at off-street parking area, sidewalks, structures.
So these patio areas, if they have permeable pavers, that would still be green space?
Patio areas with permeable pavers would not qualify as green space. Yeah.
And what is it coming up short?
Well, it's a little bit complicated. So essentially, the current site plan that you have on your desk is includes the parcel that goes all the way to Cameron Street. Back in early 2020, when they introduced the residential component and hit 20% green space, they were not factoring in that other parcel that they co-owned, but weren't factoring in. And that site, that parking lot parcel over by that you access from North Cameron Street, has been, 90%, 95% asphalt all-street parking area for the last 50, 75 years since the structure was torn down there for parking. So the current site plan is showing 10% or about just under 10% green space, but that is including bringing in an area that has historically had 5, I'm just estimating here, but a very, very low green space count because it was one large parking lot. So now they're factoring in that, and the number is just under 10%.
For the whole property?
For the
10%.
whole site, yeah.
And it should be?
I don't have the estimated number, but again, going back to the uses, you do have, I don't know if it's majority residential, but going back to the early 2020 site plan, they were close with the 20%.
And just to bring me up to speed, the green space, where is it required, not required downtown? What defines green space necessary when you're down?
It's required throughout downtown. However, essentially, a large majority of downtown sites are not to the current zoning code, essentially grandfathered in. Yeah. And this site, with the changing uses, they did introduce 6 residential units there. And in that early 2020 site plan had, if you recall, if you're familiar with the area between what used to be Brubaker's and the bank building, was an alley, a private alley that was paved. So it briefly went to a lawn area and then went to a landscaped patio. So it went back a little bit in the other direction.
You good, David? Brian?
I mean, I'd definitely like to see more green space. When they did that side green space patio conversion, did they come before the city and ask that or request that, or did they just go ahead and do it?
It was during the process we asked for the site plan, but Tim can kind of chime in on the history of that with the conversion there from lawn area.
Yeah, so the plan has evolved, it continues to evolve, and we've been trying to keep up. In some cases, the plan's been following the work, and sometimes the work has been following the plan. I think this is an instance where the overall outcome is good. There's good quality landscaping there in that outdoor patio area, but when you do the math, in terms of quantity, it doesn't come out on that original site as high as it was when you last saw it. So we're kind of going through an iterative process. We're happy with what they're doing in terms of circulation and greening up along the most visible parts from our public rights-of-way. They're both on Piccadilly and on North Cameron Street. So it's kind of a situation where, yes, they subjected themselves to added green space because of the introduction of part of the building being residential, but they've also done a good job of revitalizing the whole property and building in better quality green space. And on the issue of the impervious paver patio, that helps them in terms of stormwater management. So they get credit for that, but it doesn't count as green space like lawn and landscape.
Excellent. Thank you. John? Oh.
I would like to have more green space. I know they're proposing this patio out back and some lawn space along Piccadilly Street. I'd personally like, I'm a fan of green space. I would like to see more and become more in compliance than less out of compliance. Taking into factor the one-way off of North Cameron Street and having that in, obviously that would bring down the green space percentage. But I think there's more room for green space, and I think that's needed. I think they're doing a great job on the project. Nothing negative about any of that. Definitely a great improvement, but I'd definitely like to see more in compliance than become further out of compliance.
John?
Well, I think it's a very good plan. And again, bring it into the building that's not been used to this use is really good. I think it's a good plan.
Questions, or are we just discussing?
Questions for the staff?
No questions.
Please.
I agree with the green space comments totally, but I understand what they're doing. Can you talk me through the stairwell really fast? So the stairwell's on the side of the building?
That's on page 1 of the site plan. That's the front facade of the historic bank building. It would be off to the right. If you're looking at the front of the building, it would be off to the right of the front door, kind of between the front door to the bank building and their kind of side patio area, just right there. The easement encroachment encroachment agreement easement was approved by council. So this site plan captures the construction of it essentially. There is a permit kind of on hold for the construction of that staircase for site plan approval.
Okay, I think that's it then.
I think you mentioned that this plan, though it may be iterative, makes sense to you.
It does, yes, and we are on board with the redesign of the layout, the functionality of it, the flow, converting it to one way. They were able to actually, like I said, it was a more efficient layout to have only one bank of parking in that kind of section on page 2 when you get up to Piccadilly Street. Right now it's kind of, there's 2 rows driving to drive aisles, and that is kind of an inefficient layout. So by converting just to one, they've actually been able to use some of that rear space behind the building better.
On that, do they have sufficient number of parking spaces for the residential units?
I know that, I believe the applicant is here, but so part of the reason for the lift arms is to ensure, I believe, is to ensure that the residents do have parking spaces. The owner can speak a little bit more to that effect.
If I may.
Yeah. Please. Yeah.
Can you hear me okay?
Please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because we're online.
Okay. Well, the main reason for the parking gates is if the stoplight, if you're coming east on Piccadilly and the light just turns red, people turn into my parking lot and buzz through and go out the Cameron Street parking lot. It's a shortcut. And it's the other way around. If they're coming up Cameron Street to the north and the light turns red, they dive off into my parking lot and go around. Somebody's going to get killed. You know, it's crazy. And we have no parking signs all over the place, and we're constantly keeping people out of the parking lot. So my tenants, in their lease, they get a parking spot, and so it's my responsibility to make sure they have a parking spot, and it's just been a total battle, you know. But this new flow thing will help everybody and keep the riprap out too. But I have a comment about the green space. I was under the impression, I was told by the landscaper that the permeable pavers were part of the green space. You know, I go, wow, man, this is great. This is honest to God truth. I thought they were.
Well, we all learned today that they're not.
Yeah, well, we all learned today that they're not.
Okay.
Okay, thanks, Ash.
Thank you. But on that, I counted 28 parking spaces, and there are how many apartments?
6
Six
apartments. Yeah.
So there might be a little room to capture a little more green space. Could you stand by? Could you take a look at that? We've got 2 weeks. The other question I've got on the parking area is whether or not the geometry works for big vehicles like a trash truck.
That's yeah. I'm not sure how they would plan to load or unload the dumpster enclosure. I mean, the dumpsters are currently there, kind of in that vicinity, behind the rear of what used to be Brubaker's, and the angle parking stalls.
Specifically, I'm looking at the space between this island with the tree, kind of mid-section, to the loading area is only 15 feet wide. I'm just questioning the geometry.
I think the loading area is not intended to be a permanent parking space, so you do end up with a drive aisle there that is wider than just 15 feet. It's pretty similar to what's there right now, so I'm not sure, other than
That's just paint.
small trucks or a good back-end maneuver from Piccadilly Street would
It makes sense. We think green space is important, and so just look at the numbers. If we've got 6 apartments, what do we really need for parking spaces?
But I would remind that the venue is also on the property, so the owner, I believe, plans to use most of that parking besides what's reserved for the apartments.
Please.
Yeah.
The first tenant is at least 10 spaces.
So that takes us to 18 and 6. Thank you. Any other elements? Thank you. So I think the next thing we have is the CIP.
It's always my pleasure to make my annual pilgrimage to you all to talk about our CIP. I'm sure everybody has had a chance to read every single project that's in the packet. But I'm just going to go over the highlights, but if you have questions, feel free to stop me anytime and ask questions. So the projects that I think are probably going to be the most beneficial for discussion. We'll start off with the fire and rescue station. So I think that you probably are aware that the city is in the process of trying to purchase the South End Fire Station property.
We know now.
Okay, it's been in the paper, but that's moving forward. The intent is once the city acquires that property, the intent is to demolish the existing building on the site and build what would be the city's first city-owned fire station. It's been talked about for a number of years. I think the city, we're very excited about it. This is a great opportunity for the first city-owned fire station. So the plan is we would start the design of the new facility next year.
Go ahead. And so is that the, I guess, $2 million plus or minus? Is that the design work, or is that also
that's
purchase?
The purchase of the property and starting the design. Yes. Yes.
If I may.
Sure.
On page 119, 20, 21, it looks like there's some missing zeros because it's all coming into hundreds of millions of dollars instead of hundreds of thousands.
Hang on. Check that. So you're looking at, I assume you're looking at this sheet.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it says it's in thousands, which would make it $350 million.
You're going to have to help me out.
So a couple of our departments did not follow the directions. We noticed this before we had the discussion at council. So a couple of departments did not see the in thousands portion of it. So if it seems like an odd number, it is not accurate. So we caught that just the end of last week.
So then is that number thank you, David, $350,000?
Can you point out the number that you're looking at?
Right here, it's showing the cost of the equipment, $350,000 in thousands.
That's not, this is an ambulance.
Well, but the 19, 20, 21, all the figures, so for everything here is showing stuff.
Okay, now
It's not in thousands. Yeah.
I know what I'm saying, hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah, that would be the world's most expensive ambulance.
Yes.
Chief Henschel might like that.
I thought
you wouldn't have to leave the station, you could just spray it.
I thought you were talking about the actual fire station project itself.
Well, I guess I see the numbers if we're talking fire station.
Okay.
I had tried to go through this thing just to get a feel of look.
Good.
And that was something that caught my eye.
No, that's appreciate you pointing that out. Any other questions about the fire station? Okay. The next phase of the Green Circle Trail, which will extend from on the south side of Jubal Early. You all know where the Jubal Square apartments are. That's where the trail currently stops. So we will pick up the trail there and go east, with the end point being the intersection of Millwood, Jubal Early, Apple Blossom Drive, right there in front of the hotel. So that's where the trail starts. So that's the next phase.
And is it on the north or south side of the apartment complex?
It's
both.
It's on the north side of the Jubal Square Apartments, on the south side of Jubal Early Drive. Yeah. There's different options for this next phase. That's going to go to the City Council Planning and Economic Development Committee meeting at the end of this month. And council will select what option. It's the most challenging section of the trail. We saved the best for last. So council will select the option, and then we will proceed with the final design, easement acquisitions, that type of thing.
Can I just ask a process? We don't have any role in that. Okay, thank you.
The next big sidewalk project that you'll see, where we currently don't have sidewalks, where we will be installing them, is going to be on Middle Road.
I'm sorry, where?
Middle Road.
Middle Road.
Middle Road. But that will not happen for a couple more years.
So that $3 million in 2024, is that solely Middle Road, or does that get other sidewalks?
Under sidewalk improvements?
Yes, sir.
That is actually for replacements, not new sidewalks. So
2025 is the news.
yeah. So the projects where there's not existing sidewalks, where we'll be installing them, they're individually listed as projects. Sidewalk replacements are really the sidewalk improvement line item.
Understand.
Yeah.
On that, I think you're doing a wonderful job on Valley with the curbs and gutters.
It's been slower than we've liked, but
it's nice when it's done.
we're getting there.
When do you think they'll resurface the valley?
Within the next 5 years.
5 years. That's 2 shock replacements.
No. Certainly by this fall. Yeah. Yeah. The reason that project has gone so slow is the new storm drainage pipes that we've had to put in are very deep, and they've all been in rock. And it's just been a slow process. So, along those lines, though, the Hope Drive project is getting very close, and we anticipate the new roadway will be opened up by the end of this month. So that's positive. Yeah, we're excited about that. Okay, let's talk a little bit about Millwood Improvements. So this project will be done in conjunction with VDOT's project of replacing the bridge over the interstate. And what the city's project will consist of is taking the signal light out at Mall Boulevard, closing off that center median, prohibiting any left turns, and that will allow traffic to flow through there much better.
Thank you.
Than it does today. That's going to be a noticeable improvement, but it's going to take a couple of years. Just the bridge project alone is going to, that's a 20 plus.
Do you see them concurrent, or is it afterwards, after the bridge project?
It will be the same time.
Concurrent, okay.
Yeah, we have coordinated with VDOT, and both projects are going to be bid. The city's project and VDOT's project is part of one package. So it'll be one contractor that will work on them both at the same time.
Does Shenandoah University pay for any of that bridge?
This is the bridge over the interstate.
Oh, the interstate, I'm thinking,
Yes.
pedestrian bridge.
Yeah.
I was talking about that.
That is still a potential future project, but there's been nothing definitive on that. North Cameron Street drainage improvements. Recently, the city was successful in acquiring properties from CSX. There's properties on North Kent Street, kind of north of Baker, along the railroad tracks. So we're going to be building stormwater management ponds there and landscaping it, really cleaning up the property quite a bit. So we're excited about that. Let's go on to the next page. Not a lot of the projects on this page are out in the future, but a lot of these are sidewalk projects like Fox Drive, Shawnee Drive, Weems Lane, Bellevue Avenue. We know there's a lot of sidewalks that we want to build that we don't currently have, but very expensive projects.
And if the commission wants to see those sidewalk, those updates to the master plan, if you pull up the last head agenda, the draft sidewalk master plan is posted on that agenda.
Oh, good, thank you.
Yeah. I don't have it on this overhead, but a couple of other things that I think I should point out. There's going to be some pretty significant improvements in Jim Barnett Park in the coming years. I think the biggest, most immediate project is going to be improvements to Preston Fields. So we're going to completely redo those fields and create 2 full-size artificial turf soccer fields. And so that, I think everybody's very excited about that. This next year, we're also going to make some improvements up in Frederick Douglass Park and make some drainage improvements to Eagles Field in Jim Barnett Park. So we've got a lot of exciting things coming in the park.
How about the other parks too? Any improvements up for them?
We're looking at all the neighborhood parks, and so yeah, that's being looked at. Don't have any definitive list of improvements yet, but it's something we're definitely looking at.
And is that really in your lane, or is it Parks and Recs?
We work on it jointly.
Okay.
My department helps, manage the construction, but the actual programming and the parks, recreation part of it, we let them take the
They figure out the requirement.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. Yes.
Questions? David?
Storm drainage improvements.
Yes.
A couple of years ago, on Stewart Street, where Town Run goes through, there used to be signs up and keep you off the sidewalk, and it looked like it was going to fall through.
Yes.
My perception of what the problem must have been. But as time's gone by, I've never seen construction, but all the signs just sort of wither away and disappear.
Good question.
What happens?
You will see construction start by the end of this month.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Traffic signal improvements.
Uh-huh.
When are the traffic signals going to recognize that there's somebody on a bicycle sitting in front of them? Because I get hung at those lights all the time. And people park behind me 20 yards because they're afraid I'll back uphill into them. And so they don't get a signal either because it doesn't know they're there either.
Okay. Is there a particular signal where you notice that happening?
It's pretty much in general.
Okay.
I can be, and I never know whether when I come on Boscawen and Stewart, if I'll get a light. I ride my bike all over town, and in general, the lights don't recognize me.
Okay.
I try to get so I'm aimed right in the trajectory of the camera.
Sure.
But that doesn't work all the time. And I might wait for a cycle or two before I finally give up and walk through the intersection and get back on the bike. So anything you can do to help that, bicyclists would appreciate it.
Sure. No, that's the first I've heard of that, so appreciate you telling me.
And it sounds like a technology issue.
It is. Yeah.
I try to move my arms, but that doesn't help.
See that? Can you imagine?
This is my question.
Good questions, thank you.
Brennan?
He's already answered them.
John?
I'm happy to see a synthetic ice rink. Is there support for that through the parks in the city?
I believe so. Maybe Dan can speak to that more than I can.
We've been looking at something to do down on the south end of Jim Barnett Park for quite a while, where the old putt-putt course used to be. This is something that the Parks and Rec Advisory Board's brought up over time and a lot of our user groups. So it's something that we're going to be trying out in that particular spot.
Great.
When you say synthetic, is that just like the James Wood Middle School?
No, so that there's a question about that the other day. That's kind of meant more for inline skating, that surface over there. This is actual bladed skating, and there will be a kiosk for skate rentals and stuff like that. The James Wood ones, we looked into it more. It was more for groups to come in and rent and make use of. So this is something that folks could just show up with their kids on a Tuesday afternoon and do for an hour or two.
Sorry.
Good. John, you good?
That's it, thank you.
Oh, nothing.
Looks good. Looks great, thank you.
Can I get a few questions?
Okay, fire away.
You didn't talk about water pipes at all, and I know the last few years, you were aggressively replacing water lines and water meters.
Mm-hmm.
Are we done? Are we good for the next 50 years?
I wish. We are not done. We have finished replacing all the water meters. That's done.
Throughout the whole city?
Throughout the whole city.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, that was quite an undertaking, but we're happy to be done with that. We still have miles and miles of old water mains that need to be replaced. So this summer, you will see our next project is going to be on Washington Street between Boscawen and Piccadilly. Then Morgan Street, which is off of Amherst. And then Piccadilly Street between Braddock and Morgan Street. So that's our next, we'll replace all the water and sewer, all the sidewalks there. That's our next.
So the oldest lines are actually in the old town area?
Yes, they are. We have lines that in another 5 or 6 years will be 200 years old that are still in service.
But they're not wood, are they?
No. Although we still dig up sections of old wooden water, but the wood water mains haven't been in service since late 1700s. But we still have a lot of miles of water main to replace.
Okay, just, it wasn't on your summary. We just got this today in hard copy, so we'll,
Sure.
it's in here.
It's in here, yes. Yeah.
Same with paving.
We will be doing the bond issue that just happened. The city issued bonds last December. I'm trying to see, it's not showing up here.
The ongoing paving is, I think it's just a general amount every year.
Not finding.
Page 30 and 79, active street repaving.
What page is it then?
Well, page 30 and 79 of the CIP, page 136 of 185.
Oh, yep, thank you.
Regardless, so we'll be doing about $2 million worth of street paving, repaving over the next year and a half.
What does $2 million get you?
Not nearly as much as it used to. That should do about maybe 15 lane miles.
Oh, okay. More than I thought, actually. And aside from the plan, are we able to, and this might really be a question for the city manager, the federal government just threw $1 trillion out in infrastructure. Are we able to leverage any of that for things we have to do?
We are going to try to get every dollar we can from that
I would think
program.
especially for because they've got a big water
Yes.
line in the program.
Yeah. What Perry said.
Yeah, we will be going after that very aggressively.
Well, that's good. Any alibis? Thanks.
Thank you.
I would ask all the commissioners to look at the hard copy of the CIP over the next 2 weeks, and we come back, we'll have maybe smart questions for you.
Good.
Thank you. Any announcements, Mr. Humans? Nothing. Nothing from economic development. HUA. Anything from commissioners?
Mr. Tegnesi and I attended a meeting, what was it,
Please.
2 weeks ago. Feel free to add anything. There was a good turnout, I thought. Maybe Mr. Humans was there, 30 so people. They presented the proposal. It's a 10-acre project that I didn't have any hard copies or anything. I don't know the exact numbers. I'm sure we'll see it, but it's a townhouses and apartments. It's a very large community-type development.
That's the HDP?
Say that again?
Is that the HDP?
Yes, it's the same folks. Who I'm sure provide much more.
Where is that?
So the applicant formally filed that yesterday, which was the deadline for the June public hearing docket for Planning Commission. So that'll be coming forward. And it's a good segue from what Perry was talking about with the drainage in the north end of the city. That applicant is going to be working with us to, I think, partner on stormwater facilities over closer to Fairmont and Wick Street there. So you'll be
I
seeing.
think I just got confused, though. You were talking about a Frederick County project.
No.
No, this is in the city.
The new development.
Oh, okay. I'm good. Thank you.
Yeah. So stay tuned to June. You'll get all the details on that one. But yeah, it was a good outreach to the neighbors. Even if all the neighbors weren't thrilled about it, it's good that they got to hear it before the public hearing that you'll have.
Yeah.
Well, that's exciting. This will be the third project. We'll wait to see.
They just keep coming in. Yeah.
Something happening. If I could just digress for a moment and take go back to the bank building green space. They've got more than enough parking spaces. I mean, more is always better if you're the applicant. But in this case, he may have enough, and he probably ought to meet the level that we approved 2 years ago or whenever we did that. Does that make sense to you?
I hear what you're saying.
Okay.
And we'll encourage them to maybe whittle down that non-green patio. We have never told anybody that even a pervious pavement, far less a concrete patio, ever counts toward green space. If they put planter boxes in there that have living green stuff, that portion of it counts, but the patio itself, no. That's never been the case.
But I think I did hear some concern on the commission.
Yeah, so we'll work with them, see if we can eke out some more green space there.
And it would be good if we could see the numbers in 2 weeks, if that makes sense.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, number 4 on your work session agenda, status of projects pending council approval. Just very quickly, council did approve the Winchester Grove, the 440 units down there on Valley Avenue. And I think that was a unanimous vote, if I'm not mistaken, of council, so that was refreshing.
They haven't done that lately, but that's...
Not too many of those lately, no. And then, Frito,
Well, the point to be made on that is that that project really changed from when we first saw it to when we moved it to the PED. And it really did, I believe, got better.
yes. Did you have anything to report? That's all I have.
I think we're adjourned. Thank you. See you in 2 weeks.
Here this month?
Yes, sir.